I want to give a big thank you to my two co-founders, Kent Allen and Jim Akamura. They're here on the stage. I have to give them full credit for putting together the agenda, and they've done a great job. Like I said, it's a great agenda with around 20 speakers and 15 different sessions over the 2 days. There's a GELF dinner tonight, and I think it's going to be a nice way for the GELF community to get together again in person after such a long time. So with that, I am going to turn it over to you, Kent.
So yeah, I also want to give not only Scott, but Veronica and Alan, Nell, the whole Ramella team. It's been quite an experience pulling all this together. But first and foremost, I want to thank the audience for being here. And within the audience, obviously, we do have a lot of sponsors, a lot of people that have supported GELF's mission over the last 10 years. And so we really can't do this without the sponsors, so I do want to thank you guys throughout the event. We've learned some lessons over the last couple of years. It seems like a couple of years, but I guess, and so we worked hard on bringing the story to everyone, and we created virtual, and this is actually the first time that we're filming a GELF. We realized always after the fact, it's like, God, so much effort, so many times Jose has spoken, and we speak and then it's there and it's gone. But so I really want to thank you guys for all letting us capture this content that will live on and it'll be available on demand and things like that. So just a big shout out to the team and the sponsors. And Jim, I'm going to let you say a quick hello and kind of round out the thanks, and then we'll head over to Jose.
Again, I'd like to welcome everyone. It really feels great to kind of be back, in person, and really wanted to thank, all of the speakers. We know that, many of our speakers have been spoken at our events, in the past, and talk about Jose in 1 second here. But, we really appreciate how generous, they are in sharing their experience, and insights. And we know how valuable that is because, we always feel like the global e-commerce story is just starting to unfold. And I think, certainly what's happened over the past, year and a half, has been, this spike in interest in global and cross-border e-commerce. So again, really wanted to thank, all of our, speakers today. We have a wonderful session, just following this opening, keynote. But let me introduce, Jose Nino, who has been a very good friend of ours, at GELF. And it's been a while since he's given a keynote, but we know that he's got a wonderful story to tell. And so without further ado, we're going to turn the stage over to Jose and let him to introduce himself and the whole story of the US Polo Association. Jose,
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Clicker.
So can we get the doors open?
Okay, great. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Jose Nino. I'm the VP of Global Digital and E-commerce at US Polo, Assn, USPA Global Licensing. Firstly, thank you for being here. I'm really excited to finally be back at a conference and get to share a lot of insights with my industry colleagues. I haven't tried these pants on in 2 years and they're kind of sprayed on me. So for the next conference, I'll make sure to try my clothes on beforehand. But thanks to everyone for being here, and let's get started. These are some of the topics that we'll be discussing throughout the next 20-25 minutes. But initially, firstly, I wanted to present a short video that gives the audience an idea about US Polo Assn. So we have over 1,200 stores globally. This is one of our flagships in Turkey. Here in the US, we have about 60 stores. We have one in Times Square, which we just opened after being closed during the pandemic. And we've got stores all over the world, and we've got these flagship high-goal stores as well. Integrates VR equipment, gives customers the view of being on a polo field. So a lot of exciting things we're doing there. Then we're one of the lead commercial sponsors for Yellowstone, and we created this commercial which is a little more equestrian based for that audience. So, moving forward, again, we're a very large brand, especially outside the US. Here you may know us from our outlets or our product in JCPenney, but overseas, we're quite a premium product, especially in Turkey and in India, and we're growing significantly in China and LATAM. This is the global e-commerce growth story, depending on which reference you're looking at. But generally, we saw pretty solid pre-COVID growth on a comp basis. Obviously, then COVID came around. China had a head start, but Q2 we saw big spikes, and then as we started nearing the end of the pandemic, we see these comps end. The forecast next year is still significant growth, but this is comping to now, not comping to pre-COVID. So what COVID has really done is brought in 4, 5, 6 years of e-commerce sales up 5 years, and we've seen these really large comps. Total retail sales dropped in 2020. As we know, digital grew, obviously. Stores compounded online growth. But what's going to happen now? People are very desperate to leave their households and go to a store. So the retail stores, the retail brands that have an omni-channel presence, offline, online, are going to have a splendid 2, 3, 4 years. We're very excited. We have 1,100 stores, many that have been closed, and a lot of them have a lot of omni-channel integration with loyalty platforms. In fact, if you just looked at Amazon's their last quarter earnings report, their growth has not stalled, but it's actually decreasing. And Morgan Stanley just 3 days ago shared a negative note on Amazon as a buy. They actually marked it, I think, as an underperform. While Target, Walmart, and others, their omni-channel, their e-commerce is growing 145%, and this isn't from small numbers. These are from pretty mature numbers. So what we're saying, especially during the next 2, 3, 4 years, stores that have both online and offline presence are going to see some very significant gains. Moving ahead to Turkey. Turkey is one of our largest countries, one of our largest regions. We have about 300 stores. We're one of the top apparel brands in Turkey, top premium apparel brand in Turkey. What we've seen pre-COVID and post-COVID, it's pretty obvious we expected online to increase significantly, but not double what it was before. We had a lot of lockdowns in Turkey, accelerated a lot of the convenience story. Our brand is very strong there, but a lot of the online movement was courtesy of a shift in marketing. We repurposed our offline marketing towards online efforts, and we saw a pretty big increase post-COVID. We expect that number, 23.2%, to normalize a little bit, but still be significantly higher than 11.5%. What we're also seeing is a shift from direct-to-consumer e-com site and marketplaces. In a lot of regions, marketplaces are a very favored form of selling for retailers, but we're focusing on shifting this from marketplaces to our direct-to-consumer sites. We're doing this because as there's more volume online, these marketplaces have become a lot more competitive, and the SEM costs have somewhat spiraled out of control. Not only the SEM costs, but also the promotional footprint that you're competitive in now, really putting a lot of pressure on margins. So your direct-to-consumer site, you own your brand, you own your story, you own your margins, you have a COGS to retail markup, and you don't pay commissions. So we're starting to see a shift here from marketplaces to DTC. These are the leading marketplaces in Turkey, Trendyol, Hepsi Burrara, and Morhipo. There's some pros and cons, but essentially what we're seeing, again, is the narrative that advertising on these platforms is becoming very, very expensive. In fact, some campaigns from a CPM and CPC basis are actually higher than what we're seeing here domestically. So that just speaks to the competitive nature of these marketplaces. Trendyol is still the #1 marketplace in Turkey, despite its focus on apparel. Hepsi Burrara has traditionally been apparel, but has become more general category as well. And Morhipo, they recently merged with Boyner. Boyner's the Macy's, I guess you can say, of Turkey, and they've really accelerated their fashion vertical. So we took some categories and created a cohorts to resemble pre-COVID and post-COVID. This is information gathered from many resources that we reference. And it's a conclusive story that apparel in Turkey has grown significantly as opposed to other regions. Apparel is very, very important for marketplaces. Food and personal care, we saw big comps as well. And frankly, we can support this growth because we're seeing it in our own business. So last word about Turkey. It's still evolving. It's still on the ground floor relative to other nations. It's a pretty populous nation, but as far as an e-commerce economy, it doesn't even rank a top 35. Spain is the world's 30th most populated nation, and as the 10th largest economy. I'm Spanish. I really find that pretty stunning that it has such a large economy, but it just goes to show you that Turkey really is on the ground floor and may present an opportunity for brands to involve themselves in this market. So another region that we're very large in is APAC. We have a lot of growth in China, a lot of growth in Japan. In fact, in China, by end of next year, we will be in 18 of their largest airports. And we're opening about 3 to 4 stores a month in China. So very exciting comps, very exciting business, very healthy business. And again, we're seeing a shift from offline to online, pre-COVID to post-COVID. Our future online retailer, I say future because a lot of this growth, as opposed to Turkey and opposed to India, which I'll show you, is really organic. We saw online growth increase substantially for the last 3 or 4 years, frankly. COVID obviously has assisted it, but this 34.7 number, when it normalizes out, it's not going to drop much from where it is right now. A lot of interesting developments in China. Tencent has purchased VIP Shop a couple years ago, but just recently they have integrated VIP Shop, which is one of the leading marketplaces in China, onto WeChat, the super app. So just to have visibility in that environment is very, very important, and it's one of the reasons why VIP Shop has skyrocketed in popularity. Social commerce gaining momentum. Oh, here we have the social commerce gaining momentum. What is social commerce? Well, in China, there is not the concept of direct-to-consumer e-commerce websites doesn't really exist. It's more social commerce and more marketplaces. There is not like a Nike.com or a UnderArmour.com. There may be in small fragments, but it's not as popular as it is here. Social commerce, KOL culture integration onto e-commerce economy. KOL is a key opinion leader, essentially an influencer in China, and the advent of broadcasting has become very, very popular, and we've done quite a few live stream broadcasts with tier 1 and tier 2 influencers. Here are the leading marketplaces in China. You've all heard of Tmall, you've all heard of JD. Some of you maybe heard of VIP Shop. I'm sure very few of you have heard of Kaola. So VIP Shop, it's a flash site sale, but it's a little different from Pinduoduo. Pinduoduo really leverages community-based pressure on promotional discounts. So there's a lot of margin pressure to be on Pinduoduo. But VIP Shop, definitely on the ups. Tmall, still the leader, but the gap is growing, is narrowing, similar to Amazon here domestically. Still growing, but not at the comps that we're used to seeing. And I want to talk a little bit about Kaola. Kaola is a marketplace that's been around for 5 years or so. And Alibaba noticed their dramatic increase a couple years ago, and they purchased Kaola. So Kaola, its focus is on having cross-border imports of premium brands, and they have a huge focus on authenticity and also a guarantee against counterfeit goods. They have a program called Pay 10 for 1 fake. So if you buy a pair of Nike shoes for 100 USD and it's fake, Kaola's going to pay you 1,000. They're that confident in their measures. So this gives you a little bit about the narrative now in China regarding marketplaces and some pros and cons for you to review later. Again, same cohort examination. We again see increase in apparel post-COVID. We've seen an increase in food and personal care post-COVID, just like Turkey. Supply chain categories, appliances, and electronics, not as much growth. And just a final word on China, very mature e-commerce market, very competitive. It's hard to make numbers work as far as a ROAS and ROI's perspective is concerned. Margin pressure is huge. You're rubbing elbows with a lot of brands to get some sort of positioning or visibility. And it's a huge challenge, and I'll show some examples in a few minutes. India is another very large region for us. We have over 200 stores in India, and it's one of our best omni-channel environments. We have a loyalty program that has really driven a lot of our digital narrative. Unfortunately, omni-channel works when both the online and offline stores are functioning, and a lot of our stores in India were offline for quite a large period of time. So our omni-channel loyalty program took a pause, but we expect a lot of growth now that India is starting to reopen. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, % of total revenue. And this is why I say our leading online region for now. India had such a dramatic lockdown that essentially it was like China when everything first started. All of our stores closed several times. So the only real opportunity you had to purchase our product was to go online. And this is not just us, this is a lot of other brands. India was essentially a ghost town for several months. We expect the 41.4% number to normalize a little bit. We expect a lot of offline movement in India. In fact, we recently opened, and some of the first week's activity have been very, very promising. Direct-to-consumer growth, again, we're focused on moving the narrative from our marketplaces to our direct-to-consumer e-commerce sites, more focus on margin. And just like all the other marketplaces, what we see globally as a global narrative with all marketplaces is that they've become even more competitive. There's even more pressure on margin post-COVID. That's why I think a lot of brands, including ourselves, are really focusing on DTC in countries where this is an option. Leading marketplaces, Amazon is actually, they're number one, but not by much. And frankly, they're struggling a little bit. Walmart has made a great investment in Flipkart then purchased Myntra. So right now as a group, Walmart is ahead of Amazon because of Flipkart and Myntra. However, one of the benefits with Amazon is that if you're using Amazon Prime for your logistics service, you can ship product to most of India in 1 to 2 days. That's very, very difficult to do in India. I don't know how many of you have been in rural India, but there's a considerable lack of infrastructure. That's growing quickly, but it's very, very difficult to get items across the country in a small amount of time. Flipkart, we all know Walmart acquired them in 2018, and combined with Myntra, have become the #1 marketplace environment. Myntra is the largest apparel, non-general merchandise marketplace in India. Their main focus is on apparel, premium apparel, and their commissions are actually quite reasonable. Finally, I want to speak about Snapdeal a little bit. Snapdeal several years ago, they tried to merge with Flipkart, broke down, and Snapdeal almost disappeared. However, they focused a lot on tier 2 cities. All of these marketplaces ship all over India, but Snapdeal has focused on the non-urban environments, and this has really increased their footprint, and they're actually doing quite well. They're speaking about going public in a month or 2 with a pretty large valuation. My only concern with Snapdeal is the high enforcement rating, and what I mean by that is we have a best-in-class digital intellectual property platform that helps us identify counterfeits in different marketplaces around the world and integrates via API to most of these marketplaces and automatically decreases automatically takes counterfeit product offline. And Snapdeal, far and away, is our #1 problem child in India regarding unauthorized selling and counterfeit goods. So here's looking at that same cohort. A little different from Turkey and a little different from China as well. Post-COVID, we're not seeing a lot of strong growth, whereas apparel and food and personal care, you saw double-digit comps, and apparel, it's actually gone down. Again, a lot of infrastructure limitations in India. Just imagine all of the challenges that most nations have, well, that's just compounded in India. But we expect these numbers to correct themselves in the coming months. India forever has been the #1 target for growth aspirations. It's still not there. It's long overdue. A lot of this has to do, again, with the lack of infrastructure. It's catching up quickly, but it's still not there yet. Almost 50% of the population is online. That's a really small number compared to other industrialized nations, more industrialized nations, where that number is 70, 80, 90% in UK, for example. What we expect to see, though, is as the infrastructure improves, mobile coverage is going to improve. The concept of broadband at home, especially in rural cities in India, is very, very difficult. 5G may exist in New Delhi, but you leave the urban areas, and it's a real challenge getting a decent signal. But this is improving quickly. So here are some examples of what we're doing with our digital campaigns. Post-COVID, we're really analyzing campaigns that have an impact on the funnel. And what I mean by the funnel exactly is not just post-click, but just post-impression. What we're saying is, instead of investing in campaigns that really require CPC activity, we're investing more in campaigns that are CPM, meaning cost per thousand. CPC, cost per click, this is more of a concept for when you're trying to drive sales at the end of the funnel. CPM gives you more visibility as a way to introduce the customer into the funnel. And what we're doing here is putting a lot of sponsorships and just a lot of highly visible areas on these marketplaces just to get the conversation going, because we've seen when we activate these campaigns, our DTC sites see an increase in direct traffic. They see an increase in organic traffic. They see an increase in search volume. And when we turn the levers off, we see a decrease. These marketplaces are so overwhelmingly popular that if you can just attract a fraction of the eyeballs that fall on the homepage of Myntra, for example, a lot of that volume is going to go straight to your DTC site. That's the kind of focus that we have. And again, we want to drive DTC because of the margin narrative. COGS to retail as opposed to wholesale to retail. And even if you're using a third-party marketplace where it's COGS to retail, you're still subject to excessive commission fees. Your DTC site doesn't have this, and you can afford these campaigns. They justify themselves. China. So this is some of the stuff that we're doing in China. The concept of these live streaming events on Douyin, which is the Chinese TikTok, something we're focusing on. This is a campaign we had just a few months ago, and we decided to run it not on 618, which is one of the larger campaigns in China. We ran it on June 12th, just so that we're not in such a competitive environment. We had this live stream up for 7 minutes, and we obtained $230,000 in sales in 7 minutes. The viewership was tremendous, and the ROAS was tremendous too. This is what really attracts me. Right now, the ROAS on CPM or CPC campaigns, whether you're talking about homepage takeovers on Tmall or a section of, or just CPM campaigns, you're seeing a 2 to 3 ROAS is what we're saying. This campaign, we've seen a 10x ROAS. And we're pushing product that, for the most part, is not on promotion. These are full price, strong margin products. So we expect to see the advent of live streaming continue to increase in popularity in the coming years. And then I'll end with this key selling date grid and showing its importance post-COVID and pre-COVID. Right now, the New Year, not right now, previously this year, we were involved in the New Year festival. And we saw a lot of decrease in the ROI we saw from our digital marketing campaigns. This I noted with a negative. So we saw a decrease in the value year over year. Women's Day has become a very, very important promotion, especially post-COVID. Celebration of women, celebration of mothers, celebration of sisters. And in the concept and narrative of COVID, where moms really oversaw a lot of the household, there's a renewed value in this celebration. And what we saw, we were participating in Women's Day earlier this year. Importance in China has increased. And the value we see right now, bang for buck, Women's Day and 618 are the strongest ROI that we're seeing, both from a sponsorship perspective and a CPM perspective and CPC. Any KPI you use to figure out your profitability from marketing campaigns in Women's Day has been very, very strong. These are some of the other campaigns we have. I wanted to speak to quickly about Singles Day. Right now, we put less than 20% of our digital marketing campaign in China towards Singles Day. Singles Day has become extremely competitive. It's still a very important shopping holiday, but the ROI is nowhere where it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. You're rubbing elbows with a lot of people. You're having to be very, very promotional. And what we prefer is to invest in some of the promotions some of the key selling dates that aren't that popular. For example, the 618 sale, this is JD's answer to Alibaba's Single Day. You saw our previous slide, it showed 612. So instead of concentrating on the 18th, we're concentrating on a few days before or after, just to be a little more exclusive and not have to rub elbows with so many brands and retailers. Normally I have a slide that gives a summary of everything, but I know we're a little short on time and we may have some questions. So I hope you guys learned a thing or two during this presentation, and thank you for watching.